64 of the best college basketball teams in the U.S. are currently competing for the title of Best Team in the Nation. It's known as March Madness, and the women's tournament is riding high. Viewership of the tournament is up for the third straight year, and according to ESPN, first-round game views were up 70% compared to last season. Ticket prices for the women's championship game are being sold for an average of close to $1,400 on the secondary market, twice that of the men's championship game. And for the very first time ever, ad sales for women's March Madness are sold out. ESPN's parent company Disney could net $25 million in profit. That's up from $19 million last year. And to talk more about the money behind women's college basketball, I'm so pleased to be joined by Gina Antoniello. She is Academic Director of Undergraduate Programs and Clinical Assistant Professor of Sport Management at New York University. Thanks so much for joining us, Gina. There are a lot of people in the studio who are so excited about this segment. So March Madness has historically been driven by frenzy over the men's tournament, but this year the women are balling with tickets for the women's games, far outselling the guys for the Final Four stage. It's only in the last couple of years, though, that there's been so much buzz around the women. Why all the hype now?
Thank you so much for having me. And I think the first thing we need to really address is historically, there's been a lack of investment and a lack of visibility that has really constrained women's sports. Women athletes face systemic challenges that men simply haven't. Women have done the equal work, the equal training, the competing, and they've always been powerful, marketable, and relatable. However, the sport under study right now, we're looking at women's basketball in particular, is getting really a lot better at generating new stars. And we know sports rely on big name stars, and that's what really makes the magic of March Madness, the unique ability to generate these new celebrities on the fly. So while that's always been true on the men's side, you're seeing it again this year, right? How many people actually knew Jack Bolke before Oakland upset Kentucky? But on the women's side, we're only just starting to see that same phenomenon at work. Audie Crooks, she's been amazing all year at Iowa State. Now she put up 40 in her first tournament game. She's become a household name. She's put herself on the radar for many years to come.
And when you see all the interest that's been generated, Gina, does this show that investing in women's sport is actually paying dividends at this point?
Absolutely. I think when we look at this idea of countering these narratives and we're opening ourselves up to the visibility, we're seeing what amazing things can happen when partners, broadcast, even organizations turn inwards and invest internally, what magic can be made on the global stage, really.
And, you know, many more ad dollars are currently being spent on men in sports. Is that shifting in your eyes? We saw that the U.S. women's soccer team, you know, they really stood up for themselves when it came to their salaries.
Absolutely. I love that you are referencing that because when we look at how momentous the U.S. women's national team was in reaching that settlement with the U.S. Soccer Federation to receive equal pay for years to come, ending what was a 6-year fight. The settlement is not only to ensure equal pay with male counterparts, but it also offers the women's team the millions in back pay and the equal pay on all fronts, which is perpetuating equality, not just within soccer, but sports on a global stage, and it's mirroring what's happening in society. Equal pay is not something endemic to sport. It's something that women have been vying for years in our individual roles, no matter what field, industry, even within our families.
And Gina, you did touch on it, but what effect are these young female players, people like Caitlin Clark from Iowa, Angel Reese, LSU, what are they doing for women's college basketball as a sport and economically as well?
Yeah, I mean, the Caitlin Clark effect is very, very real. I think people in general underestimate just how influential individual athletes can be when it comes to marketing a sport. I mean, women athletes themselves, they drive creativity and marketing. There's so many stories to tell, incredible, whole, super interesting humans, and they're phenomenal sports talents. So when the bracket was announced, everyone had circled a possible LSU-Iowa rematch in the Elite Eight as this must-see game. I don't think anyone guessed that Iowa versus West Virginia would draw 4.9 million viewers. So to put that in perspective, that's more than any women's basketball game ever outside of the Final Four. So we're seeing more viewers, we're seeing more interest. Everything is just trending upwards, and we're just scratching the surface here.
And do you think then we'll see interest in overall women's sports start to grow as well more now?
Yeah, viewership and attendance is key. So when we're looking at women's sports in general, the viewership numbers really speak to the broad appeal of the sport. And in the women's sport universe, this last year in particular has just absolutely smashed previous records. When we're looking at March Madness, it's right in front of us right now. The entire second round averaged 1.4 million viewers, and that's up 121% year over year. And that's even further evidence that the NCAA might have underpriced their upcoming TV rights deal. So it's all related.
And then really quickly want to get your take on what effect does, the legalization of sports betting have on all of this? Women who gamble are also growing in numbers.
Absolutely. This is a great question. I think when we look at March Madness, it's such a great spectator sport, and its increased attention has made it great for betting. And when we look at the momentum, the sportsbook, they've really taken notice, and they've gotten creative to elevate their game even further. And with that being said, the handle of these operators are looking at a lot sharper customers that might actually be making up their own numbers. So operators are reshaping their offerings because now women's sports is on TV. It's a great big handle, and as more people bet on women's basketball, it naturally attracts even more attention. And it's not just from the bettors themselves. This newer growing interest from women bettors is just another way of fan engagement and fan behaviors that we're seeing. And it's really galvanizing and cultivating this interest that has been growing and has been propelled for quite a bit of time. And now it's the convergence. Now we're seeing it all come into collective alignment.
All right, I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you who you think wins March Madness on either side, but I do want to thank you so much for the conversation. Gina Antoniello, thank you very much.
Thank you.